Thank you very much. We are now ready to take our game to another level, as 3 CEOs have generously agreed to provide us with their time and expertise. Before we begin this session, I would like to acknowledge that this panel is sponsored by the CPA Atlantic School of Business. As you may know, the new Chartered Professional Accountant designation, referred to as the CPA, has combined the best program components of Canada's 3 existing accounting designations and will include Canada's top strategic and financial decision makers. The new program will develop business skills in high demand across industries and sectors and provide students with competitive advantage for prosperous careers in Canada and abroad. I would now like to welcome our CEOs with us today. They are Marie Chapman, CEO of Pier 21, in the lovely orange. Michael Duck, founder and CEO of SureShot Solutions. And Joyce Carter, President and CEO of Halifax Airport Authority. Thank you for joining us and supporting our students. We know your expertise, experience, and leadership skills will provide a strong takeaway for our students today. So we will start the CEO panel session by asking our distinguished guests to provide us with their insight on a number of questions. So my name is Roberta. I'm your show host for today. I'm the VP of Events here at the Mount. So we're going to have a little fun with this. So you notice there's a couple pieces of paper on your table. This is for after the session. So if you have any questions, please jot them down. This is for you as well. Not only are the CEOs here to offer us their insight, we want to know from you as well as the students. So if you have any questions, write them down. We do have a mic here that you can come up and ask your question, or you can give it to me and I can ask. Okay? Are we ready to start? Absolutely. Question number 1. So we are aware that leadership is important to any organization for growth to occur. Describe what leadership means to you and how students can acquire skills in this area, as not all of us are born leaders. Joyce, would you like to answer this?
So I'll start. Good afternoon, everybody. Feels a little bit like a test with the questions, but look, I think we want to keep this fairly informal, so I will start, and I think my colleagues will probably add to the questions. From my perspective, I guess when you think about leadership, really we're all leaders, and so leaders, in my view, come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. And for me, when I think about leadership, I think about my job and I think about how I lead today. You really do need to ensure the growth, and we have lots of growth at the Halifax Airport, as you may well know if you've traveled recently. But you really do need to lead in a way that you're going to use your skills, and those skills are things like your intellectual skills, but also your emotional skills, your social skills, the skills that you have to move your goal in the direction that it needs to go. So that is what I keep in my mind at all times. And because we run an airport, I don't know how much you would know about how an airport runs, but running an airport is a lot like running a town or running a city. And sometimes I get referred to as the mayor of that city or that town. And so the number of employees that work at the airport are roughly 5,500. Employees, but only 200 of those work for the airport authority. So we spend a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time leading a group that I don't necessarily have control over, but that we try to influence in the way we want to go. And that's where the leadership skills that I just spoke about really come out to help move everybody towards that common goal.
Thank you, Joyce. Would you like to add something, Mike?
So Joyce mentioned skills and how do you apply your skills to this task that you're going to take on? For myself, it's a little different. I'm a pure entrepreneur, quit school in grade 10, so never went to college. And so I do things by gut feel. And for me, it's what works the best for me. And my goal, I still have set goals for the company to grow, but that's achieved in a different way, the way with my skills I operate the business. So number one, all my employees, my executive team, everybody realizes that I work for them. My job is to make sure that the president of my company has every tool necessary so he can achieve the goals that are set before him to do. So whether that's raising money, whether that is going out and keeping the enthusiasm within the company, researching and helping find new products and new ways of doing things, or just the fact that I'm there every day trying to talk with everybody I can in my facility. All that adds to that leadership quality so that everybody feels that I'm their friend. And what it enables me to do as I make my tour of our facility twice a day is to find out what may be your points of pain in the particular task you have to accomplish. And where you feel that I'm your friend, you tell me these things, because I'm just Mike. And therefore, I can relay that back to my executive team, and some sort of action can be taken to rectify the situation, and all of a sudden it gets done, and you go like, oh, that's cool. And we move on again. So we continue to go. So there's all types of forms of leadership, but it's a matter of finding what's right for you and your particular organization.
So for me, I think what I'll touch on, because I think these guys have perfectly covered the leadership part, is how do you start when you're in university, that part of the question. So my brother, who's 20 months younger than me, said I was born to be bossy. So, you know, I guess it started young in that way. But what I would say is I went to Mount Allison University, which is a small school like this one, and you find your ways, whether it's through an appointment, like, you know, I was the co-chair of Winter Carnival, as an example, and you learn a whole lot about time management and how to step up and deal with some challenging people and artists and that sort of thing. But take a hold of whatever chance you have when you're in school, whether it's through your co-op terms, through the work you do, through your involvement at school, like you're doing here. Those are all chances for you to flex some muscles that you might not otherwise in class. The other thing I would say is we've had co-op students from the Mount at Pier 21, and in fact our manager of communications came through that and now runs our communications shop from the Mount, Kaylin McDonald. When you're in a work situation like that and people say to you or say to a crowd, can anybody, you know, stay the weekend and run Nocturne or whatever, just do it. Take every advantage you can of any opportunity to learn something new, meet new people, and you get thrown into situations that you can't imagine, but you'll get through them because, like Mike said, we're all leaders, or Joyce said, we're all leaders inside. And it's just finding the best way for you to be comfortable in that role. So try a whole lot of things now. Don't be afraid to jump in and say, I really want to help on that, or I really want to help on this. I can promise you that most employers welcome the opportunity to have help in that regard. So just jump in and do that now. It's the time. It's your time to do that.
Great, thank you, Marie. In this morning's session, Nora Perry talked about word clouds. And I have one question, and I'd like one word. What is your strongest quality? Joyce?
This is a test.
This really is a test. It's not one word, but it is my ability to collaborate.
Thank you. Mike?
Delegation. I don't want to do nothing.
So I think that's humor. It's so good. It's so good. I would say my absolute ability to admit when I completely messed up gives people that comfort.
Thank you. Next question. So Mike Welsh, who ran GE, noted that companies should fire their worst performers every year and overpay the star employees. Do you agree with this statement? Why or why not? Joyce?
You go. You
We're all just dying to start.
Yeah, well, you go. Yeah, you
No
go.
matter me. I read all of Jack's books, and I think he was a really excellent leader. a lot of things that he says and talks about are nothing new. You know, he did very well writing what he did with leading that company to where it became. Myself, a lot of it. You know, if you are on the bus and you're not doing your job, I'm gonna start moving you to the back of the bus. Pretty soon I'm gonna put you off the bus, as he says. You know, to overpay an executive, I don't believe in that neither. Because everybody, I believe in paying a person what they believe they are worth. So an example, which I keep everything simple. I don't try to complicate nothing. When I hired the president of my company, basically I figured out this was the man for my job. I said to him, and I've done it with a lot of other positions before him, okay, you're the person for my job. How much money do you want? Because see, I, as an owner, know what my range is. And you, as a person taking this job on, should know your worth. You should know what all your friends make, and you know you're better than them, right? So you want top dollar because you know what you're worth. And so I have a decision to make. If you're out of my category and I think you're the person, I have to make a decision to say, okay, I'm going to pay a little more to get you. I'm not going to overpay you. I'm going to pay you what you think you are worth. Because if I give you 1 penny less than you think you're worth, tomorrow you're looking for another job. So that's the way I operate. But if you're slacking, I don't need you around. And then again, you don't never give anybody a task which they cannot handle. Okay? There's a prime example of that in the Bible. The good-for-nothing slave. The master left. He gave the three slaves. He gave 130. He gave 110. One talent. When he came back in a year's time, he said, "Bring me my due." When he came back a year, the guy who got 30 gave him triple. The guy who gave 10 to brought him back double. The guy he had 1 to buried it. And the master came back and said, "Here, master, here's your 1 talent. I buried it for I feared I might have lost it." He had him killed. You got to bring me more every year. In order to get more, you got to bring more, but I'm not going to pay you or overtax you so you can't accomplish your goal.
Thank you, Mike. Joyce?
So I'll add to that. I mean, my view is nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I think I'll go to work and screw up today.
Yeah. Exactly.
So when you have non-performance, it can be caused by a number of factors. Perhaps the person doesn't understand what they need to do, so it could be a training issue. Perhaps they don't believe in what they've been asked to do, and so that could be an issue of buy-in. The team maybe hasn't quite decided that that's what they want to do, or the individual as a member of the team. Or perhaps they just don't have the resources to do it, and therefore you need to look at the resources. If you weigh out all of those, and in fact you do have a performance issue, then you have to manage that performance. And I really see that as a process between the employee and their boss. That's not something that happens quickly, normally, but that's a process that has to be undertaken. You have to sit down and understand what those performance issues are. My experience over my years has been a lot of times it comes down to communication. So I don't know if I can answer the question for Jack Welsh by saying yes or no, I don't agree. I probably don't agree. But yet that doesn't provide for, perhaps some of the comments that I just made a few moments ago.
So Jack Welsh, when he worked at GE, had, 40,000 employees. Mm-hmm. So the math of that doesn't work at Pier 21, frankly. I mean, we have 50 employees. They are stellar. What we try to do really hard, and this is something that this is advice, actually, don't try to get a job. Try to find a place that you feel will value your talents. We spend a ridiculous amount of time hiring people. The process for us is long, and it's not just an interview. It's getting to know the people a little bit, having them get to know us. And I think if you take the time in the beginning to take a look at places you'd want to work, and we take a look at some of our interview questions are about motivation, are about what do they know about Pier 21, and not just the little bit you can find on the website, but other stuff. Because to me, what people are really looking for is a place that will let them shine. I believe that what Joyce said is you don't wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to go in and do nothing. And I'm going to, that's not what people do. They want to shine. People want to make a difference. So I think that Jack Welch probably could manage that with 40,000 people. We can't. So we really take the time to try to get that fit. And we really hope that people who are applying do the same and understand. Because we are not, we're a museum, right? And so there's a certain, there's a huge amount actually of human interaction with people who are coming, and it's really important that fit. That sometimes doesn't work, absolutely, and then we get into the point of, trying to manage that. But for the most part, you just try really hard in the beginning to get it right.
That was a really good question. I do want to expand on this. The Mount in our community colleges has a lot of mature students and international students. I want to start with you, Marie. The question is, how do you manage diversity, and how can our students become competitive for jobs?
So we have, I like to think, one of the most diverse workforces in the city. We have 14 languages spoken at Pier 21 fluently. We have people from all over the world who are permanent employees now, because we have a Toronto Dominion sponsors a program called Welcome Home to Canada. So we do this, we've been doing this for 10 years, we have a 70% success rate. I just had to do the advertisement for TD and the Welcome Home program. So here's the trick. What we have found is there's a leap of faith that has to be made by an employer to a certain extent, because I believe that employers in Nova Scotia frankly do discriminate unintentionally if you don't have the kind of resume that matches, or if you've come here from somewhere else to work and you've got work experience in another country. So again, I think one of the things to do is try, if it's possible, whether it's getting a job or getting a position on campus, doing some of the work that you've been interested in if it's volunteer-wise, because what you need to do is you have to have Canadian references, frankly. And the other thing is, whether it's through ISIS, or through the Community Y, or in different ways, to get out there and get really comfortable and learn about the differences. There's amazing differences culturally in interview processes, and I'm sure there's stuff at the Mount or at the community college that helps overcome some of those differences. But we have encountered those. And so just really dive in there as well. Talk to some of, if you've got friends who are welcome and who've lived here, if you've got profs that have been through it, just really reach out. It does make a difference. And like I said, I mean, the fact of the matter is, we all know that Nova Scotia needs immigration and diversity to succeed in the world, but it comes with a huge competitive advantage. Like, we find ourselves, our graphic designer is from Iran and has two advanced design degrees from Iran, and she designed our logo that now all the other national museums who are way bigger than us, and they think that, anyway, they're copying our sort of way of doing things, which is, just because we're little doesn't mean we're not smart, right? We in Nova Scotia have to punch above our weight that way.
Joyce, would you like to add to that?
So when you think about an airport and think about your clientele at that airport, there's a diverse group of clientele. It's very obvious when we look at the workers at the airport that we don't match our clientele. It's interesting because we do match the stats in Nova Scotia, but we don't match our clientele. When we looked at it, what we realized we suffered a little bit from is groupthink. And so our hiring practices tended to not open up the doors to diverse workers. So we had to change it. Frankly, we had to acknowledge that, and then we had to change our hiring practices. We had to start looking for employees in areas that we had never looked before, and that's made a huge difference for us.
Thank you, Joyce. Mike, would you like to add to that?
That's something I've been dealing with all my life. So, we're a little different. We're manufacturing. We have plant workers, we have scientists and so forth. We have a professional group that works within our organization. Our biggest challenge is to keep everybody on the same page. So we bring outside firms in to help us manage this. So we'll shut the plant down for every couple of months and bring everybody together, or sometimes in small groups, to talk about these issues. Sometimes it's simple things. I face it a lot myself. I have a business which happens to have a black owner. That's the way I look at it. Whereas a lot of people look at me and say, as a black guy who has a business, should I do business with him or not? See, to me, it doesn't matter. I happen to own the business. So a lot of our companies that we deal with have these issues that they are a lot of diversity programs they want you involved in. because all of a sudden they found out you are a black person that has a business. So it's always been there, and then we have most of our marketing staff who are on the road throughout the U.S. and Canada are females. And so there's another whole side of the issue and support that they need, because a lot of times they're dealing with the male ego on that side of things. So there's a lot of training and so forth that has to go on, but it's a constant thing. It's never a one-time thing. It's constant, 3 or 4 times a year that we have to work with everybody and try to keep everybody on the same page. And make people accountable for whatever it is they do or say.
That's great. I think that was a really good question for a lot of students that are looking for jobs. The best advice is to jump right in. That's great. So question number 3. It's a little fun. What is the one thing you wish you had known when you were 20? I'll give you a minute. It may be a few years.
So I saw this question, and the other thing we are at Pier 21 is pretty, so my answer is I wish I knew the boy I was dating shouldn't have been my husband, because I married him. So that's not a work thing, but you know, it actually played a huge role in me coming to Halifax. Anyway, but in all honesty, when I was 20, I had just switched to commerce because I was going to be a doctor, and I was in biochemistry, and the dead frogs don't talk back, which was pretty disturbing. I needed interaction. So I switched over. So I guess the thing that I wished I'd known when I was 20 is that was okay. I was really stressed about adding an extra year to my college at the time, and oh my God, I was going to be 22 instead of 21 when I graduated, and this was the end of my world, and I really stressed about switching over. And now I realize that's the time to do it. I know it was a lot cheaper. I graduated from university in '89. I'm old, and I know it was a lot cheaper then. But having stuck with biochemistry and ended up in a lab would have destroyed my soul, frankly. So, honestly, and some of you would probably love a lab, but so I think my advice to you is to take a really deep breath and know that if something isn't quite fitting and you really can't, and you're not comfortable with that, it's okay. It's okay, because you don't want to waste 2 decades fixing it. And I was really lucky that I had the support and the ability to make that shift when I was 20.
Joyce? So I can't say the same thing about well, and I married him, and he's in the room, and I'm still married to him, so.
It's a character.
It was a
At
good
the back,
decision.
yeah,
It was a good
exactly.
decision.
So it was a good decision. So what I wish I had knew when I was 20 that I know today, is that the question?
Correct.
What I wish I had known when I was 20. So the power, I would say, that's a really hard question because there's a lot, but if I were to pick one thing, the power of knowing the importance of a relationship in business. So, and look, that applies to no matter what you're doing. So if you're out there and you're trying to collaborate, to influence, to move an issue, if you haven't got a relationship developed, that's going to be almost impossible. And no matter how smart you are and how much you know about the topic or what degree you have or whether you, whatever, if you don't have a relationship with the person on the other side at some level, that's going to be so much more difficult than it could otherwise be. So establish those relationships early in your career. Thank you, Joyce. Mike, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Joyce there, because without those relationships, you're going to go nowhere. We only deal with people that we like. If we don't like somebody, a car salesman will go across town to buy a car because this guy we didn't like that person. That's the way we are. For me, it was realizing that I didn't need everything that I got. So as a young person, you know, I quit school in grade 10. We grew up in the hood and type of things, and you know, gotta get this, I gotta get that. The basketball guys got this kind of car, and they got this kind of jewelry and this kind of suit, and I was making really good money, and I decided to buy all these things because I figured it was gonna make me, and I was fortunate enough to be able to buy everything I wanted to buy. At one point, we had 10 cars, and you know, buying suits, dripping with gold. It was fun. But then all of a sudden, you know, I'm 58 now. You know, really, you realize after a while that
Don't
Sorry,
believe
the
it.
too
Black-
old.
as we have a saying, black don't crack. But no, you know. See, that's pretty good. 'Cause I've been married 38 years too. So you know. But you know, I got all this stuff, and you know, I thought it was going to make me happy, but then I realized after a while, it's a nuisance having all this stuff. You know, you try to keep 10 cars, batteries charged, washed, insurance inspected, everything else has to go with them. It gets to be a nuisance after a while. You know, you got all these suits, and all of a sudden you say, "Oh, geez, a new one came out. That one's nicer than this one here. You just bought, you know, a couple $1,000 suit last time, and you go buy another one. You got suit and shoes and all this stuff hanging around, and you realize, you know, especially, you know, if I came here with, you know, a custom-made $5,000 suit on, would you notice? More than likely, you might say it's a nice suit, but that's all you're gonna know. So it's about fitting yourself for the situation you're in and so forth, and I've learned that over a while, and I've learned that I cannot impress anybody in this world, because everybody who's impressed by me, I have a tendency to forget about, and that's the ones I can help the most. And everybody who I'm trying to impress, I can't help at all because they have more than me: wealth, wisdom, knowledge, and power. So I learned that. If I knew that was 20, I'd be much further ahead than I am now.
Perfect. On to our next question. Please describe the 3 main factors that have led to your success in your career or life. 3 main factors to your success. Mike?
Realizing that there are people smarter than me. I have no qualms about saying that, you know, you're smarter than me. My name's on the check anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's all that matters in the end of me, that my name's on the check. But you have to realize, you know, there's always going to be somebody around smarter than you. And to learn that early enough, and especially as things are growing, when you start a business or a career, you know, a lot of times it's you're everything. Chief bottle washer, the whole deal. But as things grow and you put people in place, sometimes people have a fear of not putting somebody there who can do the job better than they can, or who knows more about it than they can, because they feel that, well, I should be the boss. But sometimes you should not always be the boss. You know, you might be better at marketing than running your own business, and that's where your efforts should go. So that's one of the things. Delegation is to, you know, to rid myself of everything that's going to hold me back. Everything that I'm not good at, I want to get rid of. And because there's somebody else better at it, and that's going to help the company to grow. We have 110 employees. That's 110 families that are looking forward to, you know, that need money every doggone week. And if we don't keep growing and putting people in place that can continue the company to grow, I haven't done my job. And thirdly is trust. And with trust, that comes with the getting the right DNA with everybody who works in your organization, especially on your executive team level. And when I say DNA, it has to match up. They don't have to be a yes person or no person. They don't have to think exactly the same as you do. But the family morals and so forth and things that you believe in must line up. Because you're putting them in charge of your operation. Ultimately, they control your life. I put a president in front of my company who runs it for me. And if I don't get enough funds for him, if I don't have this for him, I screw up. It's my fault, you know. But if I don't have the right trust and the right person in that spot, and he starts doing some things that I don't know about under the table, all of a sudden, I'm the one in jail more than likely. Or I'm the one with the egg on my face because it's my company. And he may move on and get another job elsewhere. But I'll always wear that.
Thank you, Mike. So 3 main factors, Joyce?
1, for me, is hard work. I have to say it because it's absolutely true for me. Yeah. So every job you're in, no matter what you do, no matter what your role is in that company, put everything into that job as if the success of the company depended on you doing your job. So pretend you're the owner and give it your all. Personally, so this is number 2, every change that I have made in my career that has worked well for me has been for growth and development for myself. If you make the change for the money, or you make the change because you just don't have a job and that's a good one to fill the time, it hasn't really worked out that well. And I guess the question was career and life, and so number 3, life for me would be the support of my family.
Thank you, Joyce. Marie?
So for me, first, the work piece is huge. And I'll tell you that I was a summer student. When I went to Mount Allison, I was a summer student at Atlantic Lottery Corporation. I lived in Moncton. I lived in Riverview. And I was a summer student, and my ultimate boss was a woman named Sharon McFarlane. My job one summer was to take winning tickets and give people their checks. It's ridiculous. It was amazing. But I would always stay late and do more and take on more. So oftentimes I would be the only student left there with Sharon, who was the controller and the VP finance. And that was fine. I never really thought about it. I just wanted to get the work done and felt that I could do it and wanted to do it, and was probably a bit of a geek and didn't have much of a social life. But anyway, so I worked away. And so then I went to Mount Allison, and Sharon McFarlane became a prof there, and so she saw me and she remembered me because I worked at a lottery for 3 summers. She ultimately hired me at Mount Allison in the finance department in my first permanent real job because she knew how hard I worked as a summer student. So never think that job, even if it's counting tickets or working in a restaurant or wherever, never ever think that might not lead to something else, and never think that your hard work isn't noticed. And you have to do it not to hope to get noticed. You have to just do it for its own reward, frankly. It's not about getting noticed. I was not there to hope that Sharon would see me at all, actually, because she kind of scared me at first. I didn't actually want to be seen by her. I just wanted to do the work. And it was interesting work to me. That was the other trick. I was lucky because it was interesting. So the hard work thing has held in good stead through my whole career. And I look for that in our team. When I look at some of the people who will dig in and jump in and, they don't look at their job description and say, oh, it's not part of my job. That drives me crazy. As a leader looking for that next group, it's who will jump in and help out no matter what it is. That to me is something that's huge. That's old-fashioned, I know, but it's work. The second thing for me is absolutely knowing what I'm good at and knowing what I'm not good at, and either seeking out help to get it better or finding people who can do it. Same drill. There's just certain things that I'm really not good at, and we need them in our team, and I find it with other people and cherish that, and we honor that to make sure that we're all different. And I think on the personal level, the third thing, again, is my family. I'm a single mom, and my parents are a huge part of my success to this day. So is my 13-year-old who went to the Mount for his first schooling at the daycare. He's actually been in the bowls in the cafeteria. He actually still remembers that part. But my family and my extended family are amazing, and never be afraid to ask for help. Sometimes I thought I shouldn't ask for help personally when I needed it, and you know what, it's like Joyce said, but people want to help. If people can help, they'll help. And so don't be afraid. Don't suffer alone with trying to juggle 16 things on your plate, including a child. Just ask. Just ask.
Perfect. Thank you, Marie. That actually leads into our next question. We are taught that mentors are often a critical piece for developing leadership skills. However, for new graduates, finding a mentor is a lot easier said than done. Can I speak for a lot of the students when it's very difficult? Did you have a mentor earlier in your career, and how did that person become your mentor? Joyce?
I actually thought about this question for quite a long time, and it occurred to me, not just in thinking about the question, but it occurred to me as I thought about my career that I think I've always had a mentor, but I have not known that I've always had a mentor. It's easy to look back. I won't say my age. I won't be as brave as Mike. It's really easy to look back when you get to a point in your career and think about who may have been your mentor. Early days for me, clearly, it's clear to me now, my mentor would have been my dad, and I wouldn't have known that. He ran his own business. We ran a family business in our home. I grew up in that environment. I am completely convinced today that that's where I get my work ethic, because 24/7 was your work. It was a family business in my home. I clearly, when I look through my university time, and I'm sure if you're a student here today, you can do that, I had 2 professors who clearly were mentors to me at the time. I didn't know it, and I didn't see it. They gave me advice continually. I took it because I thought, what else? I may as well take it and see where it takes me. They really taught me about the power that the fact that my work counts and the power that I can bring to my work. At that time, it was my school work. My first job, again, was a chap who ran his own business, and I relied on him a lot when situations got difficult, and I didn't realize I was turning to him, and he may not even realized he was providing me with that mentorship. When I look back to think about my time in working in private business, you know, the importance of the dollar, as you spoke of earlier, Mike, the value of relationships when you run it, and again, it was a big family business, but a family business, the value of relationships, the importance of my work, the reward for working hard, the fact that you're going to have your days that are up and you're going to have your days that are down, and how you're going to shine is how well you react to those days that are down, not the days that are up. All of that, all of those pieces together provided mentorship to me. I just didn't know it at the time. So I encourage you to look around. If you feel you don't have a mentor today, look around those that are part of your group, and I challenge you that I suspect you do.
Thank you, Joyce. Marie?
I would just say the same thing. I actually, I've been part of 2 groups where they've done sort of a more formal mentoring thing, and for me, it's always been sort of a situation I rarely, I mean, even with Sharon, I don't call them mentors necessarily. That's exactly what they were, but they didn't pop out and say, we're going to have this relationship. It just was very organic, and sometimes it would be that I just probably looked like I needed help, and they were there. But it was through school. I had 2 profs. When I was standing there staring at the dead frog, you know, somebody said, you should consider a different, in a nice way, you know, sort of did that for me. But when you're struggling with something, whether it's, are you in the right courses, I want to make the leap and start my own business, or whatever it is, do reach out, because again, people are happy to help and offer some advice, especially if they've earned a few gray hairs from making the wrong decisions. I learn more from the mistakes I've made. I've been fired. I was fired from the IWK. Like, that's, you know, you don't get fired from the Children's Hospital. I get fired. You know, and I learned from that a lot, and I had mentors who helped me through that. So you're right. Look around. See those people. It could be your family. You know, my dad has been a man who has led me personally and professionally in so many ways. And I think often about what would Dad do in this situation in certain instances. So you just sort of seek him out that way.
Great. Mike?
For me, it's, as I mentioned, it's family. My folks moved me from New Jersey in '73 because I was 16. My dad wanted to start his own business. And, you know, I didn't know about starting a business when I was 16 years old, and here I am, chip off the old block, you know. I wasn't expecting it. But as Marie mentioned, you know, asking for help. You know, too many people, we become afraid of the word no. And if you think back when we were young, and when you were 5 or 3 years old, and you wanted to do something, and Dad or Mom told you you couldn't do it, what'd you do? Went crazy, didn't you? Cried, jumped, kicked, yelled. Then one day Dad popped you or Mom popped you, and you said, well, I better not do that no more. and then all of a sudden we begin to accept no. You know, we don't want, you know, you better not do that. And we just look at the look, you stop. And here we are in today's world, and as soon as somebody says no, okay. And I tell people all the time, if you want to buy a car, and you go see the bank manager says, so I want to buy a car, Mr. He says, no. You going to walk out? That person's job is to lend you money. But you have to qualify to get his money. So you got to ask for help. What do I got to do, Mr.? Mrs., what do I got to do to get your money? Because you're supposed to give me money. That's your job. And you have to go qualify that. But asking, I can remember one time when I was looking for a president of a company. I heard about this guy in Halifax. He was shutting down his, well, he sold the family business, very large business, a big corporate company bought the company. It was big already. They bought this company, you know, with $1 billion, whatever it was. And I said, well, this guy would be kind of cool to run my business. But I didn't know this man. Didn't know him. I went through the phone book. This is back a while back when we used phone books a lot. And I called up everybody with his last name to find out if this was the man. Because the office was shut down, kind of, right? You know, and the soul was taken over. I said, this is the man I need. And I finally found the right home, talked to his wife. Yeah, I'll get him to call you back. He called me back. He gave me an appointment, and he had different aspirations. He wanted to get in the political world, but he gave me some time a day. And we're good friends to this day, and we still kick things around, you know? So you ask. You have a lot of great retired business people in the community who are looking for something to do. And they don't charge you. Buy them a lunch, buy them a bottle of wine. They'll sit and chat with you because they want looking for something to do. They have a wealth of knowledge out there. All your professors and so forth that you'll be associated with here. Your high school teachers. Ask them. They like to see where you are today and what you are becoming. So always ask. Don't be afraid of no. Get out there and ask people. Ask people.
That's very great insight because we do have a lot of fabulous faculty and business owners and entrepreneurs in this room today, so definitely use that resource. I have one combined question before I open up to the floor for students to ask some questions. Again, there is a mic here. Feel free to come up and ask a question. And again, if you don't have the opportunity, I'm sure these CEOs will be available after to talk to you and give you that insight as well. So this is the last two-part question. Let's see how we can do. So think of this. If you were asked to leave us with one piece of advice for students and new graduates, what would it be? But before you answer, questions ignite imagination, avert catastrophes, and reveal unexpected paths. CEOs are expected to think quick on their feet and manage creativity. So my question is, what animal are you most like? So what advice would you like to leave our students today?
Somebody else is like? I think Mike's a cheetah. Like fast and sleek and anyway. You go, Mike.
Me? I'm more like an ant. Come on now, y'all sing that song. You see what the ant can do now. You see ant can lift more than 10 times his weight. Cat gets up early in the morning, works. I used to work 100 hours a week sometimes, you know. But the ant's always moving, always reporting to somebody because it's got the queen down there, right? You know. Huh? The queen. I mean, look, the king ain't nothing. Oh, queen, she killed the king in a minute, boys. Stay in, but I always tell you, my wife says, I'm the head, but she's the neck.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, you know, I think I am, because, you know, ants always working, always trying to do more than they can do.
Yep.
Always, you see them running here and there, always got a certain path. You block that path, an ant, what's it going to do? It's going to find a way around it, over it, or through it. And that's the same as everybody in this room. At some point in time, you are going to find a brick wall in your life. Oh, yeah. And the only way through your brick wall is by asking for help. So you have to go under it, around it, or through it to see what's on the other side. Then you can begin to see how good you are. But if you haven't reached your brick wall yet, you haven't tried hard enough in anything you've done. You haven't been like the ant and carried the biggest load and the burdens and everything you can carry with you. It's heavy. It's going to weigh you down. 100 hours a week could kill me now. When I was young, I could do that. So there's, it comes times, and there's other stories that go with that, but I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm so looking at Joyce. I don't know what animal. Do you know what?
I have no idea what animal I am. That's a good question. I had actually thought of the ant, but see, you took that. So I think the question was two-part, and I guess I can answer the first part, which was the advice. And I think I've said some of this already, and it's more than one word, but it's work hard. It's don't ever take your eye off the ball. So keep your view on the future. And as for the animal, I want to say a cat. But I have 3, and they are so different that I'd have to pick one. I'd have to pick my nicest cat. So I think about them, and I think about you can be a bit docile. I guess you definitely have your own personality. You have a way of getting things done. The cat I'm thinking of in particular is a cat who will get it done by sort of collaborating with the other 2. And so at the end of the day, you move forward, but you move forward in a very calculated way.
Very good.
That's good.
That was good.
Jeez.
Marie, would you like to
Try that?
try that?
So I think I'm a squirrel. And we have squirrels in our backyard, and my 13-year-old son, who at 13, your mother's just embarrassing mostly. He says that I never stop moving, and I'm always like putting stuff away and making sure we're ready for the next day and planning for next summer. And you know, squirrels are always planning for the winter, right? They're always going. So that's probably me. And the advice I would give is a little bit different, and maybe we give advice born of the things we didn't do. I graduated from high school when I just turned 17. I was young. I'd skipped a couple grades, and don't skip grades. That wasn't good. I would travel. I work at the Museum of Immigration. We have people from all over the world. I have been privileged to work with people who have lived in 3 and 4 continents and speak 4 and 5 languages, and I feel very humbled by that. But what I would also say is, for those who have done that and come back to Canada and choose Canada as their land, who are citizens of this land, they will realize really how fortunate we are in so many ways, and how we should never take for granted the fact that we can gather here today or hold up placards. I was in Ottawa last week. My dad was in the RCMP. There's 13 members of my family in the RCMP. I feel a little passionate about the choices we make in this country and how fortunate we are to make them. So what I would say is the best way to appreciate that is to get out. And I didn't travel when I was young, and now I won't. I think if you travel when you're young, it can change you. Many people I've had this conversation with, and it's the truth. And that would be my advice, is to make every attempt you can to see the world and yourself in that world in a different situation.
Thank you. I'd like to open the floor up for any students that would like to come up to the mic and ask any questions. If you're not brave enough, you can just bring your card to me. Thank you.
Did people make fun of you when you moved here because you were from Oregon?
No, they make fun of it before I moved here because I was going to live with the Indians.
Oh, of course.
I came out of Jersey.
Good afternoon. Hello, CEOs. My name is Cassandra Gross, and I have a question. We often hear of success and your success, and I was just wondering if you would be willing to share part of the struggle, because it's great to hear that you've all have been successful. Just a part of the struggle, if you could share that with us, and at what point did you realize that the struggle was either over or you had overcome it? I know we have an ant and a squirrel and a cat up there, and I'm sure there's been some hurdles that you had overcome. I just want to know how you overcame that, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us. Go ahead, Mike.
You're always overcoming things. To this day, I have dyslexia. Don't spell that good, terrible with numbers, you know. Is it going to hold me back? You know, I know how to hire smart people. You know, you can't let those things mess you up. You know, coming to Canada, moving from out of New Jersey to coming here, living as a kid, was quite different. Quitting school in grade 10, and you overcome those things. Starting the business up. I started a business in the basement of my house. And we continue to grow and grow and grow. By one point, we're doing $1 million with 13 people in the basement of the house. But before that, there were times when I was writing paychecks to everybody else, I make sure everybody got paid every week, and there was times that my family ate craft dinner, you know. But it's, you know, you don't let them know that, but there are issues that happen and so forth as you continue to grow a business, and always making sure that you have the right funding to take you to the next level. Today, you know, our business we do very well. It's a hungry business though. It's a life of its own that needs to be fed every doggone day. And I mean, this thing's hungry. It takes a lot of dough, which you have to keep, you know, we invest 30% of our profits back in R&D, so it takes a lot to have that 30% to keep you know, the innovation going that we need. Whether it's innovation in a new product, or whether it's innovation in a new process that we're doing, or a new style of management that we're taking on, or a new marketing initiative. It's hungry, it needs a lot. And so that's been one of the biggest challenges, I guess.
Great, thank you, Mike. We're going to have our next student ask a question, just to keep with time. Go ahead.
This is more for Mike. With starting your own business, was there any advice that you wish somebody would have told you at the time when you were thinking about starting that business that you now know?
Your life. Because see, there's business and there's life, okay? And they have to be separate. So I read this example years ago that your life is like a piece of pie, 360 degrees, pizza pie, pumpkin pie, I don't care what kind of pie you like. Start a business or career, half that pie is consumed by it. The other half is yours. Family, vacation, whatever you want to do, now, your half of the pie is yours. As your business or career grows, it will start to consume your piece of the pie. I can't do this because I got to do that. The boss wants this, the client wants this. A business or career will consume 360 degrees of your pie and go spit you out, because it doesn't care about you. You may have the best business or career in the world, but something will suffer. It may be your health. You're working so hard, working 100 hours a week, you're not eating, you're nervous. With a great business, you might have a heart attack and die. You might have companionship, great business in the world, but you got this companion, they're not getting companionship because you're working so much. Half of it's theirs after a certain amount of time, right? Or the business or career may not succeed. Okay? When you start a business or career, there are times when it must consume 360. Because if it doesn't go 360, you haven't given it your best. Okay? You got to go 360. But the question is, how do you dial it back to your piece of the pie? Is your piece of pie 180? Is it 270? And as you dial it back, it's going to go back up again. And you got to dial it back. It's going to go back up again. So that's one thing I wish I'd have known. Because I quit I had 3 jobs at one point, and I quit one job because my daughter was 6 and said, "Doesn't Daddy ever come home?" I had money, but I was never there.
Great, thank you. We have 2 more questions left. And if you have any other questions, like I said, please ask your mentors or the CEO after the session. So 2 more questions left. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Will Gordon from NSCC International Business. My question's for anybody on the panel who feels they'd like to answer it. What has been your greatest challenge with regards to managing people, and how did you motivate them to change, short of saying, well, there's the door?
Go ahead, girls. I answered 2 already.
So I can, it's not really about, so I've worked my whole career in either hospitals, universities, so in the not-for-profit social sector. So the challenge has been, along the lines we've talked about a bit, is communication, so that everybody knows they're on the same page and that they're valued. For me personally, and it kind of ties into the failure piece, and we talked about this, you got to give everybody space to feel that they've had a say in whatever your decision has been, if it's going to affect their area. You know, being a dictator, at least in the businesses I've worked in or the companies I've worked in, doesn't really work. You've got to make them feel that they have a place to have the communication. So, and then I've been in the position, I think we probably all have been, of people who just don't fit, and you've got to talk to them about that. A lot of times, it's been my experience when I've had to have the conversation about somebody leaving where I've worked, they've known deep inside, and in fact, I've had 2 people actually say it was a relief. It's not always that way, obviously, but you've got to be open and clear about what's working and what isn't, and give people the opportunity and the tools to do the job. And if they still aren't able to do the job, then it's time to have that difficult conversation. But I got to tell you, the one-on-one in the conversation, that's part of your role as a senior person, is to have those difficult conversations. It's what we have to do.
Thank you, Marie.
And to have those conversations before it's too late.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you realize somebody's not keeping up, it's up to you. We call them rap sessions. You as a person superior has to have a rap session once a month with every employee on your team to tell you that you're not quite doing it yet. This is what I want you to work on.
Perfect, thank you. One last question from our students before we wrap up. Go ahead.
Hi, CEOs. Jason Crawley, third year business. I've done a lot of what you guys have done. This is my second career now. That young lady from the airport authority. My question is,
Yum.
yeah, oh yeah, I got gray hair and everything.
Her husband's here.
Yes. My question is, when you guys hire for your industries, do you guys count life experience? Not just university education, not just qualifications, but actually somebody who is 30, 40, or 50 and getting a second career. Is that life experience important to you?
It's really important to me. The resume, sadly, the process that we all know well sometimes doesn't work so great. So typically the resume gets you in the door. I'm sure we've been all in the position where you cull through resumes, you get 100 resumes for a job, you get it down to 10 that you're going to interview. You interview the 10 and 9 of them are not like what you thought, what the resume shows. So I often question the process of resumes and applications, and does it really get the right folks in the jobs? Life experiences, absolutely. So if you're successful in the first phase, which is the resume phase, it's all about, for me, behavioral type questions and life experiences from that point on. The qualifications, the education are a very small part of what is the right fit in our organization. The culture, the experiences you've had, how you behave in certain situations, your fit in the team far outweigh everything else.
Perfect, thank you very much. That's the end for the questions. I do want to wrap up by saying thank you very much on behalf of all the students that are here today and the faculty that are here with their students. Thank you. So I do have a gift of appreciation for each one of you, just to thank you for your time and your expertise. I know all three of you are very, very busy and have a lot of responsibilities, which we all hope, to be CEOs one day, maybe, or entrepreneurs, or whatever we want to do with our life and our career. Thank you. So for Joyce, thank you very much for being here on behalf of the Halifax Airport Authority. And Michael Duck, who's here on behalf of his company, founder and CEO of SureShot Solutions. And last but not least, Marie Chapman, who's here from Pier 21, CEO.